Good morning. I'm Stephen Leake. I'm an elder with the First Presbyterian Church of Mesquite, Texas, and I'm also the teacher of the Discipleship Sunday School class there. Today we're continuing with our study of the Gospel of John, and today we're going to start chapter 2, which is the wedding feast of Cana. Now, this story in this chapter has layers and layers of meaning. And so we'll study part of it today and the rest of it in future lessons. So let's get started. The wedding feast of Cana is in John chapter 2, verses 1 through verses 11. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now standing there were 6 stone jars for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, "Fill the jars with water," and they filled them to the brim. He said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the chief steward." So they took it. When the steward tasted the water that had become wine and did not know where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the steward called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guests have become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this, the first of his signs, in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. The very richness of the fourth gospel presents those who would study it and those who would teach it with a problem. There are always 2 things to deal with. First, there's a simple story that anyone can understand and retell. But there's also a wealth of deeper meaning for those who have the eagerness to search and the eyes to see and the minds to understand. There's so much in a passage like this that we're going to study it in stages. First of all, today, we're going to look at this story quite simply to set it within its background and see it come alive. Then we'll take a look at things that it tells us about Jesus and his work. And finally, we'll look at the permanent truth which John is seeking to tell us in this story. Cana of Galilee is called such to distinguish it from Cana and Coelho, Syria, which is a valley between Lebanon and Syria. It was a village quite near to Nazareth. In Cana, there was a wedding feast to which Mary went, and at which she must have held a special place. She had something to do with the arrangements, for she was worried when the wine ran out, and she had authority enough to order the servants to do whatever Jesus told them to do. Some of the later Gospels, which never got into the New Testament, add details to this story. One of the Coptic Gospels tells us that Mary was a sister of the bridegroom's mother. Some Gospels even claim that the bridegroom was John, the writer of our Gospel, the son of Salome, Mary's sister. We do not know if these details are true, but clearly this is an eyewitness account. Now there's no mention of Joseph. Most probably he was deceased at this time. It seems that Joseph died quite young, and that's the reason that Jesus spent 18 years in Nazareth to take care of his mother and his siblings. Now the scene is a village wedding feast. In Palestine, a wedding was a notable occasion, to say the least. It was Jewish law that a wedding of a young girl should take place on a Wednesday. This is interesting because it gives us a date from which to work back. If this wedding took place on a Wednesday, it must have been the Sabbath when Jesus first met Andrew and John, and they stayed the whole day with him. So let's backtrack a little bit and try to recall all those days, those first 7 days of Jesus' ministry that started the week before. So here is the first week of Jesus' ministry. Last Thursday, the previous Thursday, John 1:19 through 28, John the Baptist witnesses to the Jews who had come to ask him questions about what he was doing and what his baptism meant. On Friday, John the Baptist discusses Jesus and the importance of Jesus' baptism. On Saturday, now this would have been the Sabbath to the Jews begins Friday at sundown. So on Saturday, the Sabbath, John 1:35 through 39, Jesus meets Andrew and John. Sunday, John 1:40 through 42, Andrew introduces Jesus to his brother Peter. On Monday, which is recorded in John 1:43 through 51, Jesus meets Philip and Nathanael. That was our lesson last week. Now there's no record of Tuesday, and I always thought that was because it was the Sabbath, but I was mistaken. The day we have no record of was actually a Tuesday, if this was a young girl and not a widow who got married, and if they got married on a Wednesday. So today, John 2:1 through 11, we're calling a Wednesday the wedding feast at Cana. The wedding festivities lasted for more than one day. The ceremony itself took place late in the evening, after a feast. Now, our weddings typically take place before the reception and the big meal. But in Palestine, the wedding took place after the meal. Then after the ceremony, when it was dark, the couple was taken to their new home in a torchlight parade. They were taken by as long a route as possible so that as many people as possible would have the opportunity to wish them well. They did not go on a honeymoon. They stayed at home, and for a week they kept open house. Can you imagine being a newlywed and having an open house all week? They actually wore crowns and dressed in bridal robes. And they were treated and called king and queen for that week. So in a life of poverty and hard work, this week of festivity and joy was a supreme occasion in the life of a small village. Now Jesus went to share this happiness, but something went wrong. Now Professor Barclay tells us that it's likely that Jesus' attendance caused a problem as he brought along 5 guests. But our version of the Bible that we read from this morning, the Revised Standard Version, said that Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. So this is a bit of a contradiction. It may be that the fact that Jesus brought 5 people to the wedding and not 2, for example, might have caused a problem. At any rate, the wine ran out, and that would have caused great embarrassment to the wedding party. Also in those times, the groom's parents paid for the wedding, unlike our day today when the bride's family pays for the wedding. So anyway, Mary came to Jesus to tell him what had happened. Now, our version of the Bible, the New Revised Standard Version, makes his reply seem very terse and discourteous to his mother. It says, "Woman, what concern is that to you and to me?" Now, that's a translation of words, not tone. The phrase he used was a common conversational phrase, and when it was spoken gently, it did not indicate anger, but misunderstanding. Jesus was simply telling Mary to leave things to him and that he would deal with the situation. The word woman is also misleading. To us, it sounds very rough and abrupt, but it's the same word that Jesus used on the cross to address Mary as he left her in the care of the beloved disciple, our author, John. It's actually a term of respect, and perhaps it should be translated as lady. That would sound better, wouldn't it? However Jesus spoke to her, Mary was confident in him. She told the servants to do exactly what he told them to do. At the door, there were 6 great jars, each holding between 20 and 30 gallons. John was writing for Greeks, and so he has to explain that these jars were there to provide water for the purifying ceremonies of the Jews. Now, water was required for 2 purposes: washing feet and washing hands. Footwear in Palestine was a sandal, which our Professor Barclay tells us was merely a sole on the bottom of the foot attached to the foot by one strap. On a dry day, the feet would be covered with dust, and on a wet day, they would be soiled and caked with mud. A great deal of water was required just to wash feet. And strict Jews washed their hands before a meal and between each course. And there was a ritual for this as well. Water was poured over the hands, up and down, like this, from the fingertips to the elbow, and then from the elbow down to the fingertips. And in between, they would pound their fist into the palm of their hand to wash it. So a great deal of water was required for hand washing also. Jesus commanded that the jars should be filled to the brim. John mentions at this point that nothing but water was put into them. Jesus then tells the servants to draw out the water and take it to the steward in charge. We might translate that head waiter. When he tasted the water, he was astonished. He called the bridegroom and remarked on the high quality of the wine. And he said, "Most people serve the best wine first and save the inferior wine for later, when the guests' palates were dull with food and drink." So, it was at a village girl's wedding in a Galilean village that Jesus first showed his glory. And it was there that his disciples caught a dazzling glimpse of just who he was. Now, next week, we'll begin to talk about how this particular episode fits into the framework of Jesus' ministry, and then we'll talk about what it actually means in terms of Greek thought and philosophy, because that's who John was writing for. Thank you for viewing today, and God bless you.